Um, I'm the mother of Joshua and Tyler. Um, I still hear where he is not acknowledging what happened that night correctly. Those boys were innocent. They were not at the top of the hill. They were at the bottom of the hill in a ditch on the opposite side of the road, trying to get out of his way. He cleared mud through a ditch. He stopped. He stopped because he was bogged down with one child pinned under his car. Give CPR. He couldn't stand up. He was sitting on the ground when I got there, kneeling between my two sons in the mud, praying for God not to take him. And he reaches out and tells me to chill out. No, there's no remorse there.
We are about to watch the parole hearing of a man who in 1997 drove intoxicated, ran over 3 boys on their bicycles, killing 2 of them who were brothers. Before we watch this parole hearing, we're going to take a trip to the past, to 2022, where he had his initial parole hearing. After we watch that, we'll come back to the present August 2024 to watch his second hearing. With that, let's jump in.
Any offender. Offenses: first degree vehicular negligent injury, manslaughter 2 counts, operating a vehicle while intoxicated 3rd offense. Sentencing date October 9th, 2000. Sentenced to a total of 85 years. Parole date August 1st, 2021. Good time May 6, 2061. Full term June 17, 2075. Is this information correct, sir?
Is that what?
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Kelsey?
How old are you?
I'm 60,
How long have you been incarcerated? How many years?
25 years. It'll be 25 years, May 3rd.
Okay. So you were 35, about 35 at the time of the accident,
Yes, sir.
and you were you had a third DWI, that's third DWI. How many times have you been stopped where you never got tickets? You probably wasn't just happened to be the third time. You probably many times, huh?
I think every time I got stopped for DWI, I went to jail.
So you
I
just
never got too many breaks. No, sir.
just 3 of them. You didn't have any other ones where they just stopped you and let you go.
No, I had one a long time ago out in West Texas. There's been years and years ago.
Well, tell me, let me ask you a couple questions. First of all, do you have a GED or high school diploma?
Yes, sir.
Which one?
I've got a GED.
Okay. So you got your GED while you were there.
Yes, sir.
All right. And tell me what you've been doing since you've been down. What have you been doing to help yourself? What kind of classes you've been taking? What you've been doing?
I had took a bunch of AA classes when I first got here. I took the classes that they're required. Let me see, I got them all over back here. Okay, yeah, I got the AA, I got the 100 hours, the anger management, the victims awareness, the thinking for a change. And for 18 years, I was in the bike shop building bikes for underprivileged children at Christmas time. When the wheelchair shop first started over here, we're the one that got in there and got the shop to running and got all the tools that was needed to refurbish or fix the wheelchair that we worked on to ship out, and we shipped out truckload after truckload of wheelchairs.
Okay. So you've been working, been doing some work. But talk to me a little bit about your disciplines in 17. It looks like you had a contraband and some intoxication, and just want to kind of know what's going on around 17.
In 2017, I was losing. Well, actually, I had lost hope about getting out of prison. I had got denied by the court. I was losing a lot of immediate family members, a first cousin, 3 grandparents, my dad, and a grandchild that I'd never even seen. And then I got this, it's my master prison record said my parole eligibility date was 11/1/67. I would be 106 years old, and I just lost hope. But I know now I took 2 classes.
What'd you do? What'd you do?
I smoked mojo.
Smoke mojo.
Yes, sir. It would put me to sleep.
You had mojo and you smoked some mojo and you were intoxicated. Well, like I said, look, I mean, those kind of things are concerning to me. I mean, you have a terrible record, terrible of alcohol, drug abuse, or alcohol abuse. And listen, when you think it's going to be any easier when you get out, if you do get out, I mean, there's a lot of stresses and problems, and that might have been some of your drinking that you did in the past because you were stressed and you had problems and issues. I mean, what's going to make me feel good that you're going to get out and just walk straight in there?
Sir, I will not violate any law again. As soon as I get out, I will get into AA, and if given the opportunity, the parole project is going to help me get a sponsor. I've already got a couple of addresses to AA meetings right there close to the parole project.
Right. And I understand that. I understand.
I'm going to surround myself with people that's accountable, that would hold me accountable for whatever I do.
Well, or had you taken any classes that taught you about your drug or alcohol addiction before you had this discipline?
I took some a long time ago. I'm in AA right now. I took them like substance abuse. That really, I got gateway to other drugs and stuff. You don't consider any drug minor because it can be a gateway to something else. And I am drug free. I'm alcohol free, and that's how I will remain, sir.
How you gonna remain? So you're gonna go to NAAA? You're gonna be involved in programs? Do you think you're still an alcoholic or not, or have you kicked that problem?
I've kicked that problem the way I understand it. Once alcoholic, always alcoholic. So I will remain sober, and I will remain in recovery. I will do whatever I need to remain sober for the rest of my life. I'm 60 years old, sir, and I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to put myself in a position to harm anyone, another family like Mr. and Mrs. DeVille, or my family. I will never do it again.
Well, what were you thinking on that day? Tell me a little bit about the crime. I mean, it's tragic, it's terrible. I mean, you had been drinking and driving many times. What were you thinking on that day?
Well, I had been working most of that day. Throughout the day, we'd drink probably about a 6-pack. We changed transmission in a car. Well, I went to the store. I bought a 12-pack of beer and shot pool, and I drank 4 beers before I left. And when I come back, it's a little 1-lane gravel road. And when you come over this one hill, you can look at the top. If it's anything in the bottom, you can see a vehicle, because you'll see the top of it. So when I come over that hill, I looked and I didn't see anything. And I glanced at my clock. It was 8:13 p.m. When I looked back up, I seen a reflector close on the kind of right lane. Like I said, this is a 1-lane gravel road. I whipped my wheel to the left, and it was 2 boys behind bicycles. It was Josh and Tyler DeVille. I'd never seen them hit them and kill both of them, sir. If it's anything I could do, if I could take my life and bring Josh and Tyler back, I would do so without a
I understand. But why were you taking that little road? Was there a better route for you to get home, or was it you were afraid you had been drinking and you would get somebody to catch you on the road? Why that little video? I saw pictures of it. I've looked in the chart. I've looked at every file, everything you have presented, and everything you have. I'm just trying to understand why that road.
Well, it's just the little cutoff between Highway 13 and the Wilson Camel Road. You come out right by the gravel road to my house.
So there wasn't a better, because the road looked like it was, you're right, a little bit of nothing road. That's, it sounds like that, maybe you should have been on the regular roads to get to your house. Was there another way to get home?
Yes, sir, and I wish I would have took it, sir. I really do.
Warden, you have any input for me?
He's worked for the last few years, like you were saying, 2017 obviously had some issues. Prior to that, AU in 99 and didn't have any issues as far as 14s, any intoxications on his record. Since that time, he has moved back up. He's a Min A. He's been working with the range crew, and we've not had any problems with him at all since then. He's continuing to move forward with his AA and try to maintain his sobriety.
Thank you. So you're in AA and NA right now every day. How many times you go?
In AA, it's once a week, but right now we're shut down because of the coronavirus, sir.
Okay. And have you ever taken any long-term treatment, or are you just taking classes as you've taken them?
Just these classes, we go this every week, what we take it every Saturday. But every Saturday, it never fails unless something like this, it's in the way.
Well, it sounds like you try to do right. And look, your discipline's pretty good with the exception of 17, but that's very concerning to me. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be very honest with you. That's very concerning. But let's sit back and we'll listen and see what we have. But we're here from Andrew Hunley right now.
Andrew Hunley with Louisiana Parole Project, offering to the board that our organization is prepared to provide reentry support to Mr. Pierce if he is granted parole today, which would include residential housing for a period of time until Mr. Pierce is back on his feet and is able to become self-sufficient. If he is released, he has a job lined up in the Baton Rouge area working at a private collision center. And that job stands ready for him if he comes home. The plan is for him to live in one of our residences until he can become self-sufficient, afford his own apartment, own transportation, and to continue with that job. He recognizes that going back to the area he lived previously is not a good plan, considering the harm that he caused another family with his actions decades ago. But he looks forward to having the opportunity to rebuild his life in the Baton Rouge area. He has family that live out of state, but he is hopeful that he will be approved to that Baton Rouge residence. If he is granted parole to Parole Project, in addition to our reentry program that this board's available to, we recognize that Mr. Pierce is an alcoholic, and he's going to need long-term care that will start with us with a substance abuse assessment. In addition to any conditions set forth by this board, our staff will be diligent in ensuring that he meets those conditions and that he has additional resources that will help him maintain sobriety, which include sponsor and increasing alcoholics Anonymous that he can take part in. And I remain available to answer any questions you may have about his reentry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll hear from Miss Bailey, Miss Joyce.
Okay. Okay, I'm Joyce. I'm James's mother. James has prepared himself for release. He's also grown into a dependable, responsible, and accountable person. He's very remorseful for what happened and recognizes pain and the sorrow that he has caused. He has a great family support, and we are here to help him and get through whatever obstacles come up.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We'll hear
Thank
from Miss Am. We'll hear from Miss Amber.
Hi, I'm James's cousin. Like Miss Joyce said, James has really prepared himself mentally, spiritually for this transition. He has started way back when, as you see in his records, trying to better his life and trying to hold himself accountable for the decisions that he made that day. We have great family across the board. He does have some in state, he does have some out of state, and we are all ready and willing to help James through this transition while he gets back on his feet. And we're also going to be there to support him spiritually as well. We know the world's kind of crazy these days, and so he's definitely not coming home to what he left, and that's okay. We're going to be here for him, and we're going to help support him through that. So, but we really sorry about that. We really sorry about that. We really
okay.
believe that James is ready himself to do those things. We're going to be here to support him, but we don't believe we're going to have to drag him anywhere. We believe that he is ready. He does recognize the trauma and the sorrow that he has put those families through, us included, and we know that he is ready to reintegrate into society and try to get somewhat of a life back. Thank you for letting me talk.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We'll hear from Mr. Larry.
Yeah, I'm Larry Johnson, and I've known, I call him Chris, y'all call him James. His dad's name was James, but I knew all of his family. I taught he and his two siblings back in their early years of school, but I was close friends with all of his family, his mother, his grandparents, and all of them. I've been knowing them for 50 plus years. We go to the same church, and Chris was raised in church, but like so many young people that I've taught in the past, and I've been retired 30 years, but I see what destruction drugs and alcohol does to our society and our world, and I'm so against it. But I remember that accident like it was yesterday. I mean, I wasn't there. I know all the people that was involved. I'm related to most of them on both sides of the thing, and they're all good people. And it was a terrible thing, but it was 25 years ago, and they're Christians, we're Christians, and I just believe that Chris has, from talking to his mother, and I've talked to him, and I just believe that he truly has changed. If I didn't believe that, I would be the first one to say that he needs to stay there. And at the time this all happened, I said that's where he needed to be. But God's word tells us that we're to forgive, and God gives us opportunities. And I felt so bad for that family. I know them all, and I acknowledge it was a terrible thing. And I don't know what I would have done, but he needs another chance. And I truly believe that he is going to try his best. No one is perfect, but I think his mother needs him to know that he's going to be able to live a life of some sort besides incarceration. He's a young man. He says he's 60 years old, but I didn't always consider that as a young man. But,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Many years.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your comment. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll hear from Miss Cindy.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Joshua and Tyler DeVille are my sons. I wouldn't be here today if it were not for Pierce. I wouldn't be feeling the pain, the grief. It's as raw today as it was on May 3rd, 1997. The only thing is I learned to live with it. Uh, there's I wanted to tell you a little bit about Joshua and Tyler and who they were. They loved life, and they were members of the Boy Scouts. And as a matter of fact, Joshua helped start 2 units in nearby communities. And they loved being outdoors, spending time playing with their family and playing with their best friend, Neil. And they had a great understanding, even at their young age, of what it truly meant to be good, kind, and loving. Joshua and Tyler didn't have a choice on that day. They did not have the opportunity to say, I want to live. Pierce made that decision for them. He sentenced 2 innocent little boys so full of life to death with his actions. Pierce knew what he was doing on that day. He made the decision and chose to drive after consuming the alcohol and the other substances. No one forced or persuaded him to do this. He made the choice to drive drunk on his own free will, and our innocent sons paid the price for his irresponsible actions. But he didn't only sentence our 2 sons, he sentenced us to a life without them. We had a home full of love and joy, but our family as we knew it was gone. It was no more. It's unbearable agony to bury your own children, especially 2 at the same time. There were so many days I spent in their bedroom, just pulling things that belonged to them to me, to feel close to them, and just smell their scent on their clothes and their blankets. And if it wouldn't have been for my 5-year-old daughter walking in that bedroom and saying, Mommy, you still got me, I honestly don't know if I would have survived. And I spent the next few years getting the professional help that I needed in order to take care of my daughter, my only living child, and my husband. I had panic attacks since that day, to where I would become paralyzed with fear that something would happen to her. And there were so many days when she would be safe at school or with grandparents or aunts and uncles that I could not stand it, and I would go and pick her up because of that fear. And to this day, I still have those panic attacks. Their father was wrenched with grief, but he held it in and wouldn't show it because he was worried he would make it worse on me or harder for me. But I'd see him sitting off silently where he thought no one could see him, and his body would be trembling and shaking because he was crying so hard for his son. He now has no sons to carry on the DeVille family name, his family legacy. He did not have the opportunity to teach them to play sports or go hunting or have those father-son talks as they grew into young men. It became emotionally difficult for us to live in our home, a home that was once full of the sound of laughter, the pitter-patter of the feet, and even the arguing between siblings. We ended up having to leave our home for weeks at a time to try and come to terms with what had happened. It's been over 24 years since we've heard those beautiful words that our children so often say to us, I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad. There's no more hugs or beautiful smiles from them. There's no more birthday parties or celebrations for any accomplishments that they may have had in their life. Joshua and Tyler did not get to finish high school or graduate or go to college or see what life had in store for them. We often wonder what Josh and Tyler would look like as grown young men, what career path they would have chosen. Would they have followed in their grandfather's footsteps to be part of the armed services because of their love of hearing his stories about the service? How many more grandchildren we would have to love in our family? But we'll never know these answers because of the actions of Pierce. I don't know what decision's going to be made here today, but I wondered if he would ever admit to what he did or even show any remorse for what he has done. And if he did, I would have to wonder if it would be sincere and from the heart, especially after he told me to chill out as I sat in the ditch with my sons on each side of me, praying for God to not take them from us. And he sat on the ground with yellowed eyes, too drunk to stand up. Before his sentencing, he wrote us a letter. In it, he did not admit guilt for what he did. He did not apologize to us. He did not show any kind of remorse in the letter. The purpose of his letter was to see if we could find it in our hearts to ask the judge to be lenient on his sentencing. It was evident during the trial he had no remorse. The judge made the following comment: "The court has observed you carefully during your trial, as it is doing at this time, and will state with certainty that at no time have you shown any remorse whatsoever. In fact, when the jury verdicts were read, you smiled, or rather smirked."
Yes, ma'am. And
The
wrap up. Yes, ma'am.
The pre-sentence investigation indicates of 16 years of reckless behavior before killing our sons. I ask you to think of our sons who committed no crime and were sentenced to death by Pierce, and to think of us who suffered without them, and to think of his reckless and cruel actions that day. And if he has changed and he has done all the things he's said he's done, that's good for him. But I still do not believe he should be allowed the opportunity to freely walk the streets after killing our sons, Joshua and Tyler, and nearly killing their best friend, Neil.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So sorry. Thank you for your comments. Sarah, would you like to make a brief comment?
Yes, sir. I'm their younger sister, their only sister that they had. I was only 5 years old when the accident happened, so I really don't have that many memories of them. But what I do remember is that Joshua, he was the protector of me and Tyler. He always watched out for us. He was always there. Tyler, he was the fighter. And then when I say fighter, I mean fighter for life. He had a lot of health issues that he was growing up with. And so he knew he wanted to live. And he was not given that choice. And I only really get to know them now is just from pictures that I find of them and hearing stories from my mom and dad and other family friends. And from what I hear about them, they made a pretty positive impact on life. And as young kids, you can only imagine what they could have done as adults. One memory I do want to share with y'all that I will never, ever forget. Oh, hold on, I gotta find where I'm at. I had it all written down, and the one memory that I have is the evening of May 3rd on 1997. Is I remember my mom grabbing me, throwing me in the backseat of her car. We arrived to the scene, and all I remember seeing people run around, the flashing lights from the ambulance and the cops. I remember seeing men pick the car up to be able to pull Neil out from underneath the car. And then my mom pulling me out the car and begging God not to take her boys away. And that's the last memories I'll ever have of them. So, hang on. So So from that moment on, I had to grow up as an only child. It's not easy. I'll never get to know what they were like. And he could be sorry for what he's done, but that can never be brought back. He could be let free, have another chance at life, but they will never get it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'm so sorry. Thank you for your comments. All right, we'll hear from Miss Margaret. You're on mute.
Unmute. Hello.
Okay, go ahead, Miss Margaret. Brief comment.
Okay. For the parents of Neil Fontenot, Neil was the sole survivor of this accident. He was with his three best friends. We called them the Three Amigos. Now, from Neil's statement, Pierce maliciously, deliberately ran off the road and ran all three boys down. Our son was the last in line. He ended up under the car of Chris Pierce. He sat against the car, smoked a cigarette, and ignored my son's pleas for help. Now, with the memory of my son lives with this daily. He has went through therapy, counseling. He has had anger issues when he was younger. I just can't believe that he never apologized to Patrick and I. And I cannot believe he has the audacity to want to be paroled because he is a repeat offender. And I don't think in my heart and my mother's heart that this man is reformed enough to not do this again.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll hear from Mr. Patrick now.
Can you see him?
We can.
My wife, my wife has summed it up pretty good as far as both of us.
I don't think he deserves to be free because
Okay.
I'm afraid he will do this again to
All right,
some innocent person.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your comments. And thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Mr. Pierce, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Sir, I'm just so sorry. It's just heart wrenching for them two boys, Josh and Tyler. I'm so sorry. If I could take anything back, I would. If I could take my life and bring them back, I would do so in a second. I will never put myself in a position to hurt anyone ever again. I want to help people, not hurt them. And given the opportunity here, I will help people.
I thank you. All right, as panel prepared to vote, I'll vote first. Mr. Pierce, you've done, you've been working hard. You've done a lot of work. You've done a lot of good things in there. I think I've gone over this file many times. It's a terrible crime. And again, just so sorry to the victims of this crime, just unnecessary crime. You have a history of drugs and alcohol. You've had multiple DWIs, but we look at what you've been doing, and you have done some really good things. You've done some really good things while you've been in prison. You're working hard to do the right things. Like I said, for me, my concern is the intoxication. Even though it's in 17, you were in jail 20 years for a terrible, devastating crime that you committed due to drugs and alcohol. And then to just fall right back in that during stressful, because when you do get out, it's going to be stressful outside. I mean, I'd like to see more time from that 17. I'd like to continue to work hard in NAA, some more substance abuse classes. But today, due to law enforcement opposition, victim opposition, I still think you need some more work. My vote is to deny your parole. Ms. Cheryl Renatza.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. The Mojo episode is problematic. And even though, as Mr. Kelsey said, that was 5 years ago, it was still a conscious decision that you made, especially given your history. I understand that you say you were going through a whole lot, but look, life is not easy on the outside. And so I need a more sustained period of you proving to us that you can make good choices and good decisions. So my vote today also is to deny. I would encourage you to stay right up free, keep doing good work right back when you're eligible to do so.
All right. Miss Bonnie Jackson.
Hey, Mr. Pierce, for the same reasons as my colleagues, it really did bother me that in 2017, you got 3 separate write-ups for intoxication. And then your explanation for it today was that a lot of things had happened and you were under a lot of stress. And your fallback was intoxication. You know, when you have a third offense DWI, it only becomes a felony on your third one. But that means you have had a pattern of drinking and driving. And that concerns me. And I just don't feel like you've had sufficient substance abuse treatment. And I don't know that AA alone is enough. You might need something more intensive than AA, and you're not even in it right now. And so because of your write-ups in 2017 for intoxication and your lack of any long-term substance abuse treatment, my vote today is to deny. Good luck to you. Keep working hard, Mr. Pierce.
All right, you have 3 votes to deny your parole today. Your parole's been denied. Good luck. All right. Thanks for everybody being a part of the process. All right.
I have the appeals, which I'll go over, but I want to wait till after we watch his second hearing. Can you imagine that the family has to go through this every 2 years? We're going to fast forward to August 21st, 2024, when he has his second parole hearing. I'll unpack it with the details at the end.
James Pierce, 269133.
Okay, Mr. Pierce, you are a second felony offender. You had a parole eligibility date of 8/1/2021. Your adjusted good time date is 2/6/66, and your full term date is 5/1/82. You are serving a total of 85 years. Operation of vehicle while intoxicated, manslaughter, and first degree vehicular offense. So Mr. Pierce, tell me a little bit about yourself. Why should we consider letting you out today, and what did you do?
Well, sir, the last time I come on the board, I think Miss Renata and Miss Jackson said they wanted me to get a class and keep doing what I'm doing and get back on the board. I've got what she asked me to get, plus about 6 more certificates besides that. I'm still doing the same job. I have changed. I'm a completely different man, sir. I want to help.
And what happened on that night?
That night, I had went to Pine Prairie. It's a 40-minute round trip from my house, and I got a 12-pack of beer. I drank 3 or 4 16-ounce cans of beer, and I was coming, and I live on a gravel road, but it's got a little blacktop. But I can take a gravel which intersects 2 blacktops. Okay, well, it's got 2 hills. But when you're coming up on top of this hill, you can look, if it's another vehicle, you can see the top of the vehicle. So when I come up on the hill, I didn't see no vehicle, and I glanced at my clock. It was 8:13 p.m. And when I looked back at the road, I seen a reflector. And I whipped my wheel and hit my brakes, and I whipped my wheel to the left, and I never seen Josh and Tyler. That I'd sent you a copy of it. It looked like the little road, little 1-lane road, and it's got limbs come all the way down that in it. And Josh and Tyler was behind them limbs, and I'd never seen them, sir.
Okay. Did you stop after you hit them?
Sir?
Did you stop?
Yes, sir. I stopped. I got out. I give both of them CPR, no chest compression, because I didn't want to push on them. But I give both of them oxygen to no avail. I beg God not to take them, sir. You did anyway.
Okay, Warden, what do you have to say about Mr. Pierce?
Mr. Pierce, he's a minimum A trustee. He's assigned to our range crew, which is where we do our pistol training and everything. So he's a very trusted inmate here because we do have a lot of ammunition and stuff at the rifle range. He only had 7 DV reports in his 26 years of incarceration. The last one being 2017 for Rule 14. He also participated in substance abuse, T4C, his 100 hours. He got his GED. He got trade in graphic communications. He also did the victim awareness class and the letter training. And he took substance abuse twice. He took it again in 2023, along with in 2012 after he got the Rule 14. He took it again, and his tiger is low. He's a real a good inmate. He follows the rules around here, and he's no trouble at all, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Okay, now we'll hear from Kerry Myers, the Louisiana Parole Project.
Yes, good afternoon. Kerry Myers of the Louisiana Parole Project. We're here to support Mr. Pierce. We supported him at his previous hearing in which he was denied. The board made recommendations back then, and Mr. Pierce not only followed those recommendations, he exceeded those recommendations. Should this board grant Mr. Pierce parole today, he'll come to our program. He'll immediately receive a substance abuse evaluation from our social worker and follow any recommendations given there. He has addressed those issues more than once, and addiction is a very difficult thing. But he also recognizes the issue. He, as Ward Nambo said, he took Celebrate Recovery, Living in Balance, T for C, all after his last his disciplinary infraction. He's on the range crew, which is a highly trusted position, as you said. Our experience with clients who have worked on the range crew is because of their responsibilities, the personal responsibilities that they have while they're there, are very successful. One of the just I think it's the nature of the job.
Myers decided to go with a judge trial and was astounded when he was found guilty. Here's Myers in an old WWL TV prison interview.
When you heard the verdict, couldn't believe it. I don't see how the man could come to those conclusions.
You couldn't see the evidence stacking up against you in the trial.
What? A smear on my pants? What is that? The man had just killed my wife with the same bat that he attacked me with.
Wasn't there blood splatter on your pants?
No, a smear.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Randy Pierce, your brother.
That's right. All right, thank you. My name is Randy Pierce. I'm the youngest brother of James Christopher Pierce. First, I want to thank all of y'all for allowing me to speak on behalf of my brother Chris. But most importantly, I want to express our deepest sorrow to DeVille and Fontenot families. I can't imagine the pain Mr. and Mrs. DeVille endures each day, much less that dark night. Chris also endures sorrow each day, knowing his actions caused this most devastating loss. But only by the grace of God, forgiveness can be found. Chris has great remorse, and not a day goes by that he would trade his own life for this to have never happened. Forgiveness is either hard to give or hard to obtain. What is there left to do? The Lord tells us to pray, and we have for so long, and will continue to do so, and hope that the DeVille and Fontenot families can find peace and forgiveness in their hearts. Over the last 27 years, Chris has truly become a changed person. He understands how his addiction can affect lives of so many, but his conversion of heart has not come without much reflection and thought. Chris will carry this burden the rest of his life, but never again will he drink, much less drink and drive. Chris has taken many skill courses in self-improvement and has embraced AA to overcome his addiction. Chris could have easily given up over the years, but he chose to be a productive part of the correctional system. He has earned the trust and respect of his warden, the chief Class A trustee. His rehabilitation comes with great responsibility and potential if given the opportunity. So please allow the justice system to function as it should by allowing my brother to realize a second chance. My wife and I are both here to support Chris in any way possible, but please understand we would not offer our home if we truly didn't believe Chris is a changed person. He will live with us and has a job waiting for him once he gets out. We have multiple people willing and able to sponsor him in their AA meetings, both through our church community and work. Our daughter, Hannah Amon, is a licensed social worker. And son-in-law, Scotty Amon, is the director of Louisiana Adult Teen Challenge in Lafayette, as well as a licensed minister. They're both here to offer additional guidance needed for Chris to reenter society. I ask you to thoroughly thoughtfully consider giving Chris a second chance to make a difference outside the prison walls. 27 years will not change the outcome of this tragedy, but the most honorable board can allow a son to return to his mother, a father to his kids and grandkids. Please consider giving Chris the opportunity to make a difference in their lives as well as others. Along with our mother and family, we're here for Chris and hope that you will grant him parole today. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Katie Pierce.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me. I'm Katie Pierce to speak on behalf of James Christopher Pierce, my brother-in-law. 27 years ago, Chris's addiction ruled his life choices. But today, I appeal to the parole board and the DeVille and Fontenot family to listen with an open heart and mind that who you see today is a better rehabilitated version of himself than that man who entered into Angola 27 years ago. Chris utilized his time in incarceration to become a better version of himself, and doing so without his freedom. He could have given up all hope just existing behind those walls, but he didn't. He kept his sense of dignity and learned humility, which promotes empathy for others. Chris cultivated positive relationships built upon trust and respect from his peers and Angolan employees, as well as learning advantageous life skills. But what speaks volumes to his growth in character is his Class A trustee status. Without direct supervision, often alone, he has been entrusted to operate heavy machinery and tend to cattle, often spread out along thousands of acres on the Angola property. There's a quote I would like to share with you. It bears witness to the very character Chris possesses. The true test of a man's character is what he does when no one is watching. What he or she does when no one is watching truly is the ultimate test of character. In front of you are the many letters of support from family, friends, and employees, along with his class certifications. Objectively, this all speaks to his integrity. However, we strongly appeal to your subjective decision. What you hear today in support of Chris, is 27 years enough time served to appease the irreversible horror of that evening, the loss of 2 young lives? I'm not sure how anyone can put a final count or number of years to define when is enough. But please, in no way do I intend any lack of compassion or disrespect for what happened to the families that night. I truly am deeply saddened for the suffering you've all endured. Chris can never fully erase his debt to take away the years of suffering and grief any of you have experienced. He's expressed his wishes to trade his own life for Josh and Tyler. But we know this isn't possible, and the burden of that awful day will forever weigh upon his heart and soul. He just wishes for forgiveness, trusting that he will continue to atone for his past mistakes, but as a rehabilitated, free man. No crime is ever warranted or good, but the outcome can bring positivity. The future can and will hold hope for Chris and his family. Chris made a good impression on me many, many years ago because he is a good man, and I still believe that good man exists here today. However, an unthinkable impression was made on those 2 families 27 years ago. He was portrayed as a monster with malicious, calculated intent to do harm. This just isn't so. So I appeal to all that Chris has accepted his wrongdoing. He has used his time to his fullest potential to rehabilitate himself with a strong ability to make better life choices in order to re-enter into society. Had I not personally witnessed Chris's transformation, showing sincere regret and remorse, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here in good conscience to testify on his behalf. So in closing, I'm asking mercy from the families and board to grant Chris a second chance at life, that the justice system 27 years ago that rightfully incarcerated him, but that this same justice system today can exercise, promote, and prove the notion that our justice system has success stories of rehabilitation, and that James Christopher Pierce is just that, a success story. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Larry Johnson, family friend. Is Larry on?
Thank you, Your Honor. They had told us that Mr. Larry wouldn't be speaking today, so he is not present and will witness his friends and family.
Okay, thank y'all very much for being there and support. All right, I also want to advise that Miss Alice Johnson is on Zoom in support, and Mr. Christopher Pierce, his son, is also on Zoom in support. Okay, now we'll hear from the victim side, Miss Cynthia DeVille. You're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I'm the mother of Joshua and Tyler, and I'm speaking today for numerous family and friends that are on the YouTube channel watching and listening today. I still hear where he is not acknowledging what happened that night correctly. Those boys were innocent. They were not at the top of the hill. They were at the bottom of the hill in a ditch on the opposite side of the road, trying to get out of his way. He cleared mud through a ditch. He stopped. He stopped because he was bogged down with one child pinned under his car. Give CPR. He couldn't stand up. He was sitting on the ground when I got there, kneeling between my two sons in the mud, praying for God not to take them. And he reaches out and tells me to chill out. No, there's no remorse there. He's apologized, but only when he had to for a program he was doing in the prison. He wrote a letter before he was sentenced, asking us to ask the judge to be lenient on him on the sentencing. He has not proven to me that he is sorry or apologized for anything or feel any remorse, because the only time I've heard it from him is when it's in his best interests. He's been through AA several times, but apparently it did not help him any, because he continued for over 16 years. He has received citations for intoxication and driving through Texas and Louisiana, throughout those two states. He's hurt people. This was not the first accident that he had had. He almost died in one of them, but he continued to make the choice to drink and to drive and to use drugs. His eyes were so yellow that night. His face is burned into my memory. But he got intoxicated inside the prison. I mean, that's over 20 years being in there. Then he decides to get intoxicated. That doesn't prove to me that he's going to stop drinking. He got intoxicated because he felt down. He felt depressed. Well, life isn't a bed of roses out there. He's going to get depressed and down. What's he going to do then? What will he turn to? I wish I could feel differently, but I just cannot feel any different than that he will turn back to alcohol and drugs if he has the opportunity. it's good that he has been taking courses, been doing things and improving himself, but I still do not feel that he needs to be out among the community, because another family is going to suffer at his hands, just like we have been suffering. As far as forgiveness, you have to forget to forgive, and I cannot forget what he's done, and the fact that he still wants to put the boys in his way, and he swerved, which is inaccurate. And I know it's in the court files. And so that tells me there he is still not accepting responsibility for what he's done. And he has not changed in any way of feeling sorry or remorse.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it, Mr. Bill. Okay, your case has been assigned to Mr. Barra. Mr. Barra, you have any questions for him?
More like information for the record. The facts of this case are on May 3rd, 1997, the Evangeline Parish Sheriff's Office received a call about 3 children being run over by a car driven by James Christopher Pierce. Upon arrival, they found Joshua DeVille, age 10, and Tyler DeVille, age 7, deceased, and Patrick Fontenot III, age 10, trapped under the vehicle. Pierce had fled the scene when recognized by bystanders. Reports indicate that DeVille, father of the 2 deceased children, had come upon the scene and found his children behind the car in the ditch. He encountered Pierce and was told that Pierce told him he had just run over 3 children. Patrick Fontenot was trapped under the car and had asked Pierce for help, but Pierce told him there was nothing he could do. Patrick was later rescued by his father and other bystanders. Mr. Pierce left the scene and was not found for 8 hours when he turned himself in and tested positive for alcohol at 1.10%. Pierce told police when he came over the hill, the boys were in the road and there was nothing he could do. Officers interviewed Bobby Taylor since Pierce was at his residence the afternoon of the accident. Mr. Taylor stated to police that Pierce was so drunk that he asked at least two times where he was. He also stated that he had offered to drive Pierce home, but Pierce refused the offer. When the boys were killed, when the DeVille boys were killed, Mr. Pierce had previously been convicted of 5 times for DWI and convicted in 1984, 1987, 1988, 1994, and 1995. With all that being said, I don't have any questions.
I want to say I don't have any questions at this time.
Is the panel ready to vote? Okay, Mr. Barra, you vote first.
I have no choice but to vote to deny parole based on the strong victim opposition, the strong law enforcement opposition, the seriousness and avoidable nature of the offense, and that you've only served less than 1/3 of the original sentence handed down by the jury. So I recommend to you to continue doing the programs you're doing. I think that's a great thing. Continue with your rehabilitation classes and apply again when you've served a little more time. But right now, you've only served less than 1/3 of what the jury gave you. Still too early to get out.
Mr. Ledoux?
I concur with my colleague. I do want to say that you have a good institutional record, and I would encourage you not to be discouraged, to continue along that line, so that when you are released, that you will be productive. Thank you.
One of the speakers said that, it's hard to put a number on how many years is enough. But I have to totally agree with my colleagues, 26 isn't even close. So my vote today is to deny.
Thank y'all, brother.
26 isn't even close, so I'm going to deny Mr. Freeman with the mic drop, and he's been on a little bit of a roll lately. And also want to give a shout out to Mr. Barros. I'm still getting to know him, but he just pretty much summed it up by reading the report, just flat out. Here are the facts. I mean, and you watch these hearings and you just have to get back to the idea that this man killed 2 boys on their bicycles and ran over a third, brothers. And again, we see these DUI hearings and we see these vehicular homicide hearings. And what's bizarre about them, what they all seem to have in common, is that the person who does the act, it doesn't seem like they have real remorse. You could be under the entrapment of addiction and make a horrible, horrible decision and then do something unimaginable, but you might think that have some humanity inside of them. We see this over and over again where it's like they can't even fake it. And he's still lying. I mean, look at the way he started off the parole hearing. It was, well, the previous board told me that if I take programs, I could get out. That was how he started. And, it's like birds of a feather flock together. We see it all the time with the support. How dare you, as the support, address the family and try to lecture them on forgiveness? No crime is good, but the outcome can bring positivity? By Katie support? Miss Katie, what is wrong with you? No, really, how can you draft that on paper? Where is your empathy for the mother who lost 2 sons in one day? No crime is good, but the outcome can bring positivity. Are you nuts? No, I'm. How do you? Then she says, he was portrayed as a monster, and that isn't so. He was portrayed. So who is it that you're saying is portraying him as a monster? Remember, it's not just the act that he did, right? It's what he did as well as after. He ran away from the scene. He yelled at the mother and told her to relax. Look at this thing. Those are the acts of a monster. And he still is lying about it all these years later. And I'll quote, thank you, Richard, for sharing this, an article written in 1998, and it's quite interesting because not much has changed. Contrary to the statement made by the Pierce family that he is not a monster, but a good son and a good father, Mr. Pierce, driving and criminal history certainly would suggest otherwise. Again, this is written by a victim's advocate, is my understanding. I'll put the link in the description. In 1998, this was written. Since October of 1980, Christopher has been arrested a total of 9 times for various crimes, including DWI, possession of Pepsi, possession of devil's lettuce. At the time he killed Joshua and Tyler and injured Neil, Pierce had 3 previous DWI convictions in Texas and 2 in Louisiana. So he had 5, according to this article. Because of restrictions in our DWI laws, only Louisiana convictions could be used against him at trial. Incidentally, Joshua and Tyler DeVille and Neil Fontenot were not Christopher Pierce's first victims. On 2 separate previous occasions, he killed 1 person and maimed 2 others. What? What? if this is true, this is insane. This is just insane. Are you kidding me? During the trial, Joshua and Tyler testified that when he arrived at the scene and found Pierce sitting on the road, Pierce announced, "I'd done run over me 3 boys." Additionally, when Mr. DeVille asked Pierce to help the boys, Pierce responded, "F you." Certainly, this is not a situation where a law-abiding citizen made a mistake or had an accident. Christopher had a proven history of deliberately drinking and driving, and 3 little boys were made to pay the price. Is this true? Let's go to the appeal. I couldn't believe that. James was charged with a bill of information while driving while intoxicated, a 3rd offense, 2 counts of manslaughter, and 1 count of first-degree vehicular negligent injuring. A motion to recuse the trial judge was filed on October 16, 1998, and after hearing conducted by a different division of court, the motion was denied. Facts. Late on the afternoon of May 3rd, 1997. Can you see it okay? All right. The defendant was driving under the influence of alcohol and the devil's lettuce when he ran over 3 young boys who were riding bicycles. 2 of the boys were brothers. They were found dead at the scene by their parents. I can't even wrap my mind around this hell. Then you have Kerry Myers, oh, government, let him out. He's dangerous. He has a right. He has an intoxication right up in prison. He can get out. If he gets out, what's going to stop him from getting into a car? Are these people nuts? The 3rd boy was pinned under the defendant's vehicle and was seriously injured. After the wreck, the defendant fled the scene. And was taken into custody 8 hours later. The defendant contends that the judge should have recused himself. The issue of recusal was raised and addressed several times in lower court proceedings. The defendant arguing appeals. I don't know what he wants to recuse himself. At the hearing, this particular motion, the defendant introduced the record for the matter of the state. The defense then pre-offed the defendant's testimony that he was sued by the King family in the early 80s for injuries sustained by them, and a judgment was rendered against them. When Pierce was asked how Judge Acoin was involved in the collection of the judgment, he explained that he was repeatedly ruled by the court. We were to pick him up. Okay, so they're talking. Let me just pause this so I can look this over. So he's trying to recuse the judge because the judge oversaw a prior case where there's a lawsuit with him involved. And then also with the judge comments, because listen to this. The defendant's assertion, Judge Acoin did provide a factual basis for the sentence he imposed. At sentencing, he stated that he based the sentence he imposed on the information contained in the pre-sentence investigation report. In imposing the sentences, the judge focused on the defendant's unmerciful attitude towards the victim's family when they arrived at the scene of the wreck. He also mentioned that the defendant attempted to drive off in his car to escape in a total disregard for the well-being of the child trapped under the car. Judge also noted that the defendant smirked when the jury verdicts were read. He smirked. Finally, the judge noted that there was an undue risk that the defendant would commit another crime if he received a suspended sentence, that the defendant was in need of correctional treatment and custodial environment, and finally, that a lesser sentence would depreciate the seriousness of the crime which he was convicted. The comments made by the judge at sentencing do not show that he was biased. No, they do not. So, this guy's appeals are ridiculous. This sentence was too harsh. Are you kidding me? So I'm fast forwarding, and he, part of his defense, he was trying to insist that he was sober, that he wasn't drunk. Now this is his defense. This is what his attorneys or he was claiming. So this is again transcripts from his appeal of the trial. Bobby Taylor, a friend of the defendant, testified that he was at his mother's house with the defendant immediately before the wreck, and that the defendant was intoxicated. He testified that the defendant did not know where he was and twice inquired about his location. They mentioned this in the hearing today. According to Mr. Taylor, the defendant had slurred his speech and when he left was driving in an unsafe manner. Taylor further testified that he saw the defendant, Kenneth Clark, smoking a marijuana cigarette while he was at Taylor's house. Mr. Clark testified that he drank a beer or two and smoked a joint with the defendant right before the accident. According to Mr. Clark, the defendant did not know where he was and his speech was slurred. He confirmed that Taylor's testimony that the defendant twice asked where he was. Clark and the defendant shared a marijuana cigarette and each took about 8 hits. Mr. Taylor and Clark both thought the defendant was too drunk to be driving, and Mr. Clark refused an invitation to ride with the defendant in his car. Mr. Clark testified that approximately 20 minutes after the defendant left, they heard the ambulances. I wonder if they have regret. I'm sure they do over letting him get in that car. The mother of the 2 dead boys testified that when she arrived on the scene of the accident, the defendant smelled of alcohol, his eyes were yellow, and he was unsteady and unbalanced. Their father testified that he too smelled of alcohol on the defendant, and the defendant slurred his speech and had to lean against something to stand up. John Goodman, a relative of the deceased victims, testified that when he came to the scene, the defendant smelled of alcohol and was drunk. He had the defendant drinking earlier in the day. I mean, can you imagine he went to trial? You killed 2 boys. And this is his defense. Obviously they didn't go with him. He lost the appeals. We'll go back to the original article and then we'll wrap it up. But Pierce found guilty on all counts. Pre-sentence investigation ordered. After deliberating for 1 hour, the jury returned a guilty verdict against James, who was 37 at the time, who had been on trial since Monday. The jury found Pierce guilty of DWI, 3rd offense, 2 counts of manslaughter, and 1 count of first-degree vehicular negligent injury as a result of the accident, which occurred on May 3rd, 1997. In the accident, 2 brothers, Joshua, then 10 years old, and Tyler, then 7 years old, were killed. Their friend, Their friend Patrick was now Fontenot, who is now 12, was seriously injured. This trial began when the injury selection began on Monday, October 19, 1998. The jury representing the state was District Attorney Brent Coyle, was assisted by First District Attorney Tony Walker. The opening statement outlined the case for the jury. He said that the state would prove that the defendant Pierce, who had pled not guilty to the charges in this case, was driving his wife's Chevy Celebrity, I'm not familiar with that car, at a high rate of speed when this accident occurred. Opening statements included that approximately 8 p.m., the 3 boys were riding their bikes down a 2-lane gravel road and heard the gravel and moved into the ditch with their bikes. Can you imagine? I mean, you're in a gravel road on your bikes. You should be safe from monsters like this. Coyle and Pierce's vehicle left the roadway, and he's trying to blame them. I looked down at my clock and I looked up and they're in the road. It's like vehicle left the roadway and ran over the 3 boys. He said the state would prove that Pierce left the scene and he was under the influence after drinking that day. The defense attorney Blake said that the state's witnesses were biased in this case and they had access to grind against Pierce. He said the state and the family involved in this accident had to find someone to blame. Well, shut up. These defense attorneys find someone to blame. We see defense attorneys that that stand up for monsters. And I get it. You need due process and defense attorneys need to exist, but you don't need to do it zealously and in that way where you're just like a pig. Find someone to blame. He said his client was not guilty of these crimes and the state that charged him with Pierce was not due this punishment. During testimony, the prosecution called Kenneth to the stand. Clark testified he drank a beer and smoked a joint. He also said Pierce had a 12-pack in the car. While the two men were drinking in the car, the Pierce asked him twice where they were. He testified that he told Pierce they were in their front yard. I should have offered to drive him home, but I didn't, Clark testified. Bobby Taylor testified that he and Pierce drank together often and on a regular basis. He said that one day in May they were drinking and riding together. Pierce was in no kind of shape to be driving. The victim's father took the stand. He testified the boys were also together often, referring to them as the three amigos. He said the boys always stayed within hollering distance, and on this day they did not come when he hollered. He said his wife came out and said something was wrong, so he went to look for the boys. I just can't. I just can't. It's unbelievable. And I think what's just broken about this is to think that he is going to be able to come up again in another 2 years. And he is going to do this every 2 years, and he's going to put the family through this. And that just seems wrong. Thank you, Richard, for sharing the information. Those of you watching, please help the channel reach 100,000 subscribers. That's the goal. Subscribe if you want to see more hearings like this. And with that, I'll let you go.